Hello again. Thank you very much for joining me here on Movie Ninja. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about the new Netflix series Archive 81. And before I get into my review, I want to say thank you to my friend Justin at Justin Talks Film, who brought the show to my attention. Hence, I'm bringing it to y'all's attention, giving my thoughts on it. But I will also be linking his review of the first season in the description down below. So I highly encourage people, please check that out. Now, in 1994, the Visser apartment complex was destroyed in a fire. That's where our story begins. Fast forward to modern day, a young media restoration specialist, Daniel Turner, is commissioned by a billionaire to restore some footage that was taken at the site and perhaps give some answers to the families of those who unfortunately lost their lives, and perhaps give a bit of a perspective as to what may have caused these events to unfold the way that they did. After some reluctance, Daniel, sensing some sort of strange connection to the Visser, accepts the project. And so he goes to an isolated research facility where the materials are being kept under lock and key, and he can pursue his work without any type of interruption. Just a lot of privacy and a lot of security just to stay focused on your job. I mean, anybody, including Jack Torrance, would say nothing could go wrong here. What happens is that as he's finishing the first portion of the media recovery, he sees footage of a young woman, seemingly in a panic, being flanked by mysterious individuals and being apprehended by people to be taken to a facility against her will. And as Daniel is in shock and awe of the footage that he is witnessing, he notices someone that he hasn't seen in close to 20 years. Someone that was unfortunately taken from him, his own father. And that is a summary, quick and easy summary, of episode 1. Now, this is a show that really enthralls its audience with the mystery. It's easy to put this into the realm of fantasy, horror, thriller, but I'm honestly much more comfortable with the term mystery. Interestingly enough, every single answer that Daniel tries to uncover, every single answer leads to another question. And that's what gets you hooked, episode per episode, until the very end. I started watching this, When I started watching this, I saw the first 4 episodes back to back, and then the remaining 4 episodes in 2 episode blocks. And it's something that, like, as you progress, ideally, episode to episode, you have more answers and things become clearer. And unfortunately, or rather fortunately, depending on your perspective, the mystery deepens episode per episode as we have characters introduced. Mysterious intrigues and conspiracies are put before us. And it all comes together in an ending that I thankfully did not see coming. I say thankfully because I grew up on Sherlock Holmes and Agatha Christie. So in terms of mysteries, I've been out on the block a couple of times. So to have my expectations subverted in the way that they were was highly satisfying. The stories of Daniel Turner and Melody Pengrass, the woman that he sees in the footage, it is her footage that enables the audience to better understand what was going on at the Visser before the tragedy. And seemingly, somehow, their stories, Daniel and Melody's, they mature almost simultaneously. But how could that be? I mean, they're separated by decades. They've never met each other. And yet, as Daniel, as I mentioned, and one of the few spoilers I'm willing to put out there, Daniel realizes that her story has some mysterious connection to him. And from there it all begins, and then you're as soon as you get caught up into it, you want to know more. I think, like, I was very relieved at the outset. I was a little bit concerned that Melody, now this is in 1994, and she is a graduate student. She's been given grant funding to pursue a project of audiovisual oral history, taking testimonials from the various residents of the Visser. She has her own reasons, but I'm not going to get into that as of right now, because I don't want to give too much away here. But anyways, her project is to take her camcorder and then record testimonies from people who have been living at the Visser for several years, finding what brought them to the Visser, why did they move here, and exactly like how living in a somewhat archaic building, how that affects their modern lives, modern in 1994. I was a little concerned that they were going to stick with a found footage sort of POV, but they don't. We see Melody's story from following Melody herself. Like, yes, she does, have the camera, and that's how Daniel is able to maintain his connection to her, historically maintain his connection to her and follow her story and begin to decipher events as they happened. But thankfully, we see a much more we see a much more traditional narrative structure unfold with Melody, very similar to how she like Daniel. Some people that I know have also compared Melody's side of the story to a little bit of what is now known in horror subgenre as analog horror. The idea that if we just hold a moment in time and we can study it, then we can have a better understanding as to what happened, and we can decipher answers, from what we're able to actually see. And then again, sometimes we don't know how to explain what we see. Sometimes we have to question ourselves. We have to question our imaginations, lest we give in to, just self-doubt, possibly paranoia, And Daniel and Melody have to confront a reality that is, it's horrifying. The prospect of it, the scope of it, the lengths at which people are willing to go to achieve their goals. Now, as a bit of an endorsement, I will also say that in terms of my satisfaction, this is the best supernatural mystery show that I have seen. Like in my opinion. Like, some people may say like, no, it doesn't work for them. But in my opinion, this has the same level of satisfaction as I did with season 1. And I want to be very specific of that. Season 1 of Stranger Things. And as I mentioned, I saw this in fairly quick succession. It's 8 episodes. It is extremely lean. The storytelling isn't inflated with any sort of fluff. It only tells the story that it needs to tell. And I thought it was just very well done in that way. So once again, if you like that sort of analog horror, another friend of mine described it similar to an SCP scenario, which whoever knows that, trust me, when you start watching it, it will become apparent if you're familiar with SCPs. But once again, I think this is highly successful. I am glad to say, because I did look it up earlier today, and there has been a green light for a season 2. So I'm going to be tuning in for season 2. They haven't mentioned when it's going to be released. I would say at the earliest, last quarter of this year, if not more than likely 2023. But hey, we'll see. I'm just glad that, from what I saw, that there is a second season coming. So, and once again, I would like to thank Justin from Justin Talks Films for getting me interested in the show. Thank you very much. And please, take a look at the link down in the description for his review of season 1. Thank you very much for joining me here on Movie Ninja as I've talked about this. What about you guys? Have you seen the show? What did you like about it? What questions are you hoping will be answered, going into season 2? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thanks again, as always, for joining me here on Movie Ninja, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.